Joining us today is Vimli Dujan. He is an environmentalist, CEO of Green the Map. Also with us is Chandra Bhushan, CEO of International Forum for Environment, Stability and Technology. Thank you both. Let me give the first word to Mr. Chandra Bhushan. It's now pretty clear if you look at the numbers, and I'm going to request my producers to pop them up on the screen again, that stubble burning is no longer the villain. We can't go back to our farmers. We can't blame neighboring states. We can't say stubble burning is causing air pollution in Delhi anymore, because they have come down dramatically and our numbers have been the same, if not worse. Why do you think, Mr. Bhushan, this simple thing of vehicular pollution, vehicular emissions, have not been tackled by Delhi government just yet? What do you think is the roadblock here?
First of all, let me start with numbers on farm fire. The numbers you have, you should look at the number carefully and ask yourself, what has happened that the numbers have fallen so dramatically from 71,000 to 5,000? Now, surveyed on the ground very clearly shows that there has not been material difference on the ground as far as farm fire is concerned. Now, two things have happened, and it is important for you to understand. Number one, how farm fire is counted, number of fire. There are two satellites which crosses India at a fixed time in a day, and they count the number of farm fire. Now, last year also, in fact, for the last 3-4 years, it is quite apparent that farmers now know at what time the satellite moves. In fact, there is a report of CAQM, and that report is also in Supreme Court, which clearly shows that the farm is being burnt after 4 p.m. when both the satellite have passed. So the number you are seeing right now is a number measured by satellite at a certain point of time. That doesn't mean that farm fire has reduced. In fact, there's another matrix which people don't let you know, and that matrix is burnt area. How much area is burnt? This is number of farm fire that you are showing to your viewers. Now, burnt area has hardly changed both in Haryana and Punjab, even this year. So first of all, I think it is important for you to take the number with a pinch of salt.
Okay.
In fact, a handful of salt, not a pinch of salt. Okay. So let's not.
I don't know what to say, because we can't seem to be trusting the numbers.
Yes,
if your point is valid, Mr. Bhushan, I take your point. Yeah. You just might be right. This is what a lot of reports are also saying. I'm just reporting on the data.
I am right, not might. I know exactly. You're talking to someone who has studied this problem for a long time. So I am right. I might know. There's no issue of might here.
So Mr. Bhushan says that don't go by these numbers. Yes. Not very long ago, we were discussing that let's not go by the AQI numbers in the capital either. I don't know how to report this farm fire or the air pollution story anymore, because the numbers are being gamed. Numbers are being gamed in Punjab, numbers are being gamed in Delhi, and at the end of the day, who's actually getting gamed? Us, our lungs, our kids. Vimli Dujan, are you in agreement? Do you think these numbers are just a deception?
No, so the thing is that respectfully, as much as perhaps if you have to agree with what Chandra Bhushan is saying with regard to the no reduction in farm fires, but we need to understand that Delhi's AQI or average AQI, if it is in 300 plus or perhaps more, because we don't even know what our actual average is, as you reported many times that we don't even measure it rightly, and that's one of the submissions in the Supreme Court. Irrespective, say the stubble burning or the crop burning still continues as it was perhaps say 7 years ago or 8 years ago, the reality is that stubble burning only influences or takes place for 6 weeks. And of course, it coincides largely with the arrival of winter and ambient air quality and wind speed and everything else, and the temperature dipping and so on and so forth. The other is that if you look at the DSS, which is the government's own decision support system that actually gives you every day the contribution of various sources. And yesterday DSS says, which is the government's own body, says that the contribution of stubble burning with regard to not the satellite data so much, not in terms of whether it was captured or area burnt and so on and so forth, was only 5%. And yesterday it was 12%. It perhaps is going to go further down. So as much as indeed stubble burning would be happening, and of course, I have a lot of respect for Chandra Bhushan in that sense, but can we squarely, lazily, dishonestly blame Delhi's ambient air quality or air mess to something that actually is happening perhaps say 500 kilometers or 200 kilometers from here in that sense? Because if that was the case, this year anyway there's a delayed burning of stubble because of the monsoon that we have had. Why was the air quality index 400 plus before the stubble burning actually started? Stubble burning is going to end in the next 10-15 days at its top, as in the worst. Say we still are doing the stubble burning. Why will the AQI still remain at 450 to 500 in that sense if we have to go by the government's own admission? And therefore, we need to understand that disproportionate focus and attention actually serves the narrative of many people in the government that 6 weeks of action, because of government's own reasons, by the way, this is all to save groundwater, is where the entire mess has happened. So I would still, if we're objectively only talking about Delhi's air quality and 365 days air quality, and then if we bring in and only bring in and put it at the top, the stubble burning, then it's dishonest, it's unscientific, and it is not appropriate.
But what is honest? I'm really sort of scratching my head right now to say,
very
what
close.
is
At the end
honest?
of the
What
day,
numbers
that
can we
data-
look at? How do we even go about making sense of this? And Mr. Bhushan, you're smiling right now, but I feel like crying. I don't know how to sort of, like I said, I don't know how to report this story anymore because it's just so baffling if the numbers are only not to be trusted. But let me say this, adding to Mr. Jha's point over there. So the farmers for several years have been saying that, listen, we've been burning our crops from decades, right? If the argument is that farm fires cause pollution, then we should have seen massive pollution, toxic air, or like say crossing 500 AQI for years, right? That hasn't stopped. I would urge you to sort of give us an understanding if farm fires haven't gone down dramatically, as you say, but the happy seeders we have seen. We've reported on these stories on how they were given, there were subsidies provided to farmers to try and switch and turn over the way they cut their crops, etc. None of that is working according to you then?
So let me first say that the assumption that air pollution has started happening in Delhi in last 10 years is again a wrong information. Delhi has been suffering from poor air quality for at least last 3 decades, since 1990s. Okay, so, I am a little more gray now. So I have experienced what the air pollution used to look like in Delhi in 1990s. So let's get that myth out.
A little more gray here, a little more black in the lungs maybe. But yeah, that's a joke for another day, yeah.
Yes, so let's start by saying that air pollution is a perpetual problem in Delhi for at least 30 to 35 years. Farm fire actually has started in last 2 decades, at the end of 1990s. So if someone says that farm fire was a problem 50 years back, that's not true. So farm fire has started in last two decades. Now, coming back to the point...
What were farmers doing before that?
Manual cutting. Still in Haryana, if you cut your paddy manually, you don't burn. So basmati paddies are not burnt because the stubble of basmati is used for animal fodder. Okay, so let me say, so farmers are quite intelligent in terms of what to burn and not to burn. So if there's manual harvesting, you don't burn. When you use combined harvester, then you burn. Now, beside that point, coming to Bimlendu's point on decision support system and contribution of a stubble burn. DSS also depends on number of farm fire, by the way. So if your number is showing 5,000 now, this number will feed into DSS. So DSS doesn't use some other number to predict what is the contribution. Vimlendu is right. Year-round, farm fire contribution will be less than 10%. But in 6 weeks, the contribution of farm fire is about 30%. Now, blaming everything, air quality in Delhi on farmer absolutely is dishonest. Okay, but do they contribute during this 6 weeks? The answer is yes. Is Delhi pollution only because of pollution in Delhi? The answer is no. Delhi pollutes Gurgaon and Gurugram pollutes Delhi. So we have to think Delhi pollution as a regional problem. till the point we keep focusing on Delhi as if only Delhi is polluted and Meerut is not.
No, I think
Or
that's
Aligarh
fair.
is
All
not.
metros are. In fact, yesterday,
Not
Dr. Soumya
metros,
Swaminathan
small
on the
towns,
show,
small towns.
Dr.
Small
Soumya
towns.
Swaminathan said that 95% of India's air is bad, geographically spread. She said 95%. Now, that's a very, very alarming number. I have last 1 minute, so I want to bring in Mr. Jha there. Mr. Jha, then clearly we keep talking about the same thing, that it has to be a collective effort. But no matter what we say, I think the lowest hanging fruit here is to deal with vehicular pollution, right? Is to ensure. But I'm wondering why EV subsidies, why stuff like that hasn't worked. Like, what stops Delhi from actually implementing it all year round?
I think what Chandra Bhushan said is right. That and that's exactly what I wrote an open note for the CJI yesterday. That we need to actually have a regional plan where even for if we know that 40 to 50% of pollution is vehicular pollution and private vehicles largely, and then if you have to solve it, then you cannot just have a DTC bus regime. You can't just improve the public transport. Of course, you need to improve the public transport regime, but not just of Delhi, but of Gurgaon, of Noida, of Faridabad, of Ghaziabad together, in case if you're only looking at NCT. And therefore, instead of DTC, you will have to have DCTTC, which is the National Capital Territory Transport Corporation. And rather than just having 3,000 more buses in Delhi, you will have to have 10,000 buses at least in Delhi NCR, because at the end of the day, the air does not follow the political boundary or the toll naka at DND or toll naka at ambient small Gurgaon in that sense. So if we know that year around 40% of your pollution is coming, and then such regressive steps taken by the Supreme Court also needs to be called out, where there's nothing with regard to end-of-life vehicles in terms of reversing its orders, in terms of reversing many of those orders. So I think when we say collective also means legislature, executive, and citizenry, and also judiciary, because unfortunately, we have actually given a lot of responsibility of air quality governance to the judiciary, and we're so vulnerable depending on whether there's a knowledgeable bench or a bench who doesn't even know what PM 2.5 means.
Yeah. Well, that's a story for another time, like I said. But thank you, Mr. Bhushan, Mr. Jha, for such an eye-opening conversation. Here I thought we had sorted one issue, but looks like we've been gamed. We've been gamed with satellite numbers. We've been gamed, like we say, with monitoring of AQI figures as well. If I could take a closing comment from both of you, Mr. Bhushan, what do you think can change things for Delhi? One solution.
I mean to say dust and vehicular pollution is major cause of pollution coming out of the city. And therefore, the state government should do everything. It is not about water cannon will not reduce dust pollution. So you have to be very serious about working at source on dust pollution, as well as moving to public transport and electric vehicle for vehicular pollution. I think if they do these two things, the source of pollution within the city will reduce. But as I said, it has to be regionally done. Whether, it is almost like a cliche today to talk about regional cooperation. But without regional cooperation, the air pollution in northern India is not going to go down.
Regional cooperation, overall collective, and I would again urge what Dr. Soumya Swaminathan actually suggested. She said we need a COVID-like response for air. We need a centralized body that will coordinate with all states, with union territories as well, and then come up with an action plan and have a central monitoring team. She said we have to look at air emergency like we look at Swachh Bharat. She took examples of stuff like that. That entire video is up on YouTube as well. You can go on our channel and look at them if you are also interested in finding out what exactly is required to end this toxicity in the northern belt of India. Thank you both for joining us. That's all we could pack in on 5 Live today, but we promise to keep our attention on the issue of air pollution. Moving forward as well, we'll bring you more tomorrow on that Supreme Court order asking kids and schools basically to stop all outdoor activities. How are kids feeling about it? Bringing you that tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.